You are standing at the base of a quarry in 2560 BC. In front of you is a block of limestone twice your height. It weighs 2.5 tons. You have no truck, no crane, no wheel that works on sand, and someone has just told you to move it 500 miles. This is not a one-time problem. This block is one of 2,300,000. Each one needs to be cut, hauled, floated, dragged, lifted, and placed within a fraction of an inch of perfect. And the entire structure needs to be finished in roughly 20 years, which means somewhere in Egypt, a stone the size of a refrigerator is being moved into position every 5 minutes, day and night, for 2 decades straight. So how does a civilization with no engines, no metal tools strong enough to cut granite, and no wheels suited for desert sand, build the only ancient wonder still standing 4,500 years later? Let's start with what we actually know. In 1990, archaeologists excavating a site just south of the Giza Plateau uncovered something that changed everything historians thought they understood about who built the pyramids. They found a city, not a monument, not a tomb, an entire functioning town, with bakeries, breweries, dormitories, and a cemetery for the workers themselves. The workers were buried with honor, close to the pyramids they built, which is not how you treat slaves. Their skeletons showed healed fractures, evidence of medical care, and signs of a diet rich enough to sustain hard labor. This was not a slave workforce. This was a paid, fed, organized labor force, and that single discovery rewrote the entire story. So if it wasn't slaves with whips, who were these 100,000 people, and how did they actually move stones that weighed more than a city bus? The first answer is timing. Egyptian engineers didn't fight the desert. They used the one resource the desert didn't have: water. Every year, the Nile flooded between June and September, turning farmland into an unworkable swamp. For 3 to 4 months, hundreds of thousands of farmers had absolutely nothing to do. No crops to tend, no fields to plow, just idle hands and an empty season. The pyramid builders didn't conscript slaves. They employed farmers during the one period of the year when farming was impossible. It was seasonal work, and it solved 2 problems at once. It gave the state a massive workforce exactly when it needed one, and it gave farming families income during months they would otherwise have had none. And the flood did something else entirely. It raised the water level of the Nile high enough to carry boats deep into the desert, almost to the base of the construction site itself. In 2013, archaeologists discovered something remarkable in a cave at Wadi al-Jarf on the Red Sea coast. Papyrus scrolls, the oldest written documents ever found in Egypt, detailing the daily logs of a man named Merer, an official responsible for transporting limestone. His logbook recorded boat trips along a specific canal system, carrying stone blocks from the quarry at Tura directly to the Giza Plateau. The flooding Nile wasn't an obstacle, it was the highway. Now picture the actual mechanics of moving 2.5 tons of stone without wheels. In 2014, physicist Daniel Bohn at the University of Amsterdam ran an experiment that solved a piece of this puzzle. Egyptian tomb paintings show workers pulling massive sledges loaded with statues, and in front of the sledge, a single worker pouring water onto the sand. For decades, nobody knew why. Bohn's team built scale models and tested different sand conditions. Dry sand created friction that made a heavy sledge nearly impossible to pull. But wet sand, with the exact right amount of moisture, formed tiny capillary bridges between grains, stiffening the surface and cutting the dragging force in half. The Egyptians had discovered, through trial and centuries of repetition, a physics principle that wasn't formally understood until 4,500 years later. They weren't guessing, they were engineering. But water and wet sand only solved the friction problem. It didn't solve the lifting problem, and this is where the most famous unanswered question in archaeology comes in. How do you lift 2 million blocks, some weighing as much as 80 tons, to a height of 480 feet? There are 3 competing theories, and all 3 were probably used at different stages. The first is the straight ramp, a single, long incline running directly up one face of the pyramid. Simple, but mathematically brutal. To reach the top at a workable angle, the ramp would need to be over a mile long and would require more material to build than the pyramid itself. The second is the spiral ramp, wrapping around the outside of the pyramid as it rose, like a corkscrew. This uses far less material, but creates a problem with corners. You cannot easily haul an 80-ton block around a sharp 90-degree turn without modern equipment to stabilize it. In 2018, French architect Jean-Pierre Houdin proposed a third option after years of laser scanning and infrared imaging of the Great Pyramid. He found anomalies inside the structure suggesting a hidden internal ramp, spiraling up through the inside of the pyramid itself, invisible from the outside, used to haul the upper blocks once the external ramps became impractical. If he's right, the builders weren't just moving stone. They were constructing a second, secret structure purely to build the first one, then sealing it away forever once the work was done. Whichever method was used, here's what made it actually possible. Not machines, people. Lots of them, working in coordinated, specialized teams. Archaeologists studying graffiti, found on the blocks themselves, discovered something telling. Crews left their names. Friends of Khufu, drunkards of Menkaure. These weren't anonymous laborers. They were organized into competitive work gangs, each with its own identity, its own pride, its own friendly rivalry with neighboring crews. Each gang of around 20 men was assigned a specific stone, a specific task, a specific section. Multiply that across the workforce, and you get something resembling a modern construction operation, 4,500 years before construction management existed as a concept. And the math behind feeding that operation is staggering on its own. Records from the workers' town show evidence of massive bread and beer production, the two staples of the ancient Egyptian diet, alongside cattle bones indicating regular meat consumption. Feeding 100,000 people for 20 years required an agricultural and logistical operation almost as complex as the pyramid itself. Someone had to grow the grain, brew the beer, slaughter the cattle, bake the bread, and distribute all of it daily, on schedule, without fail, or the entire project would collapse from hunger before it collapsed from anything else. Now let's reconstruct what a single day actually looked like, 4,500 years ago, on the Giza Plateau. Before sunrise, the work gangs are already moving toward the quarry, the air still cool enough to work hard without the desert heat slowing them down. Stonecutters use copper chisels and dolerite hammerstones, pounding rhythmically along marked lines until a block separates cleanly from the bedrock. Other teams are already hauling yesterday's cut blocks toward the canal, where boats wait to carry them across the floodplain toward the base of the rising pyramid. By mid-morning, the sun is unbearable, and work shifts to whatever shade can be found, or continues at a slower, more deliberate pace. Water carriers move constantly between teams, both for drinking and for soaking the sand ahead of the sledges. Overseers, identifiable by their own distinct tomb inscriptions, walk the lines checking measurements against string and plumb bobs, because even a half-inch error at the base becomes feet of error by the time the structure reaches 480 feet in the sky. By afternoon, freshly hauled blocks are being maneuvered into position by teams using wooden levers and rollers, inching stone into place with a precision that modern engineers still find difficult to fully explain. Voices call out rhythms to keep teams synchronized, the same way modern work chants coordinate group lifting today. There is no machine doing this. There is only timing, trust, and 10,000 repetitions of the same motion, performed correctly enough times that the entire structure aligns to within a fraction of a degree of true north. By evening, the gangs return to their town. Bread, beer, fish, and meat. Rest in mud brick dormitories built specifically to house them. And then, the next morning, before the sun rises again, they do it all again. Stone by stone, block by block, for 20 years, until what started as a single quarry-cut limestone block becomes the last surviving wonder of the ancient world. What's remarkable isn't just that they did this without wheels suited for sand, without iron tools, without machines, without a written system of mathematics anything close to what would come centuries later. What's remarkable is that they did it as a coordinated, paid, fed, organized society, where farmers became builders during flood season and returned to their fields when the water receded, where work crews competed for pride rather than survival, and where 100,000 ordinary people, working together with nothing but rope, wood, water, and an almost unbearable amount of patience, built something that the modern world, with every tool imaginable, still struggles to fully explain. The pyramids were never built by slaves with whips behind them. They were built by farmers with somewhere to be every flood season, and a stone that needed to be in position by sundown.